Welcome back to Caprio's Court Stories. In today's video, we bring you one of the most emotional cases ever seen in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. A struggling single mother, overwhelmed by life's challenges, breaks down in tears as she stands before the judge. What happens next will truly touch your heart and remind you why Judge Caprio is known as the kindest judge in the world. Let's dive into this powerful story of compassion, justice, and humanity. It was a regular morning in Providence, Rhode Island. The courtroom, as always, was filled with people waiting anxiously for their cases to be called. Some were nervous, some impatient, and others quietly hopeful. The familiar presence of Judge Frank Caprio at the bench brought a sense of calm to the room. Known for his warm smile and understanding nature, he had a way of turning the courtroom from a place of fear into a place of hope. The clerk announced the next case. A woman in her late 20s stepped forward, holding a folder of documents close to her chest. Her face revealed the exhaustion of sleepless nights. She wore modest clothes, and her eyes looked tired yet full of determination. She was a single mother, trying to make ends meet while raising her 2 young children. Judge Caprio greeted her kindly. "Good morning, ma'am. What brings you here today?" Her voice trembled as she replied, "Good morning, Your Honor. I received several parking tickets. I know I should have paid them earlier, but I simply couldn't. I'm struggling to provide for my children, and every day feels like a fight to survive." Her honesty silenced the room. You could feel the weight of her words. It wasn't just about parking tickets. It was about survival, sacrifice, and a mother's endless responsibility. Judge Caprio, curious yet compassionate, asked gently, "Tell me about your situation. I want to understand." Tears welled up in her eyes as she explained. She worked long hours at a local diner, barely making minimum wage. Her children, both under the age of 10, depended on her for everything: rent, food, school supplies. Every dollar was already stretched too thin. The tickets had piled up because sometimes she had no choice but to park in restricted areas while rushing to pick her kids up from school or daycare. "Your Honor," she whispered, "I didn't want to break the rules. But when you're late to pick up your children, they charge fees, and I simply don't have extra money. Sometimes I had to choose between getting another ticket or leaving my kids waiting. I chose my kids." Her voice broke as tears streamed down her cheeks. The courtroom was silent, and many people in the audience wiped their own eyes. It was a scene of raw humanity, something that went far beyond legal fines and violations. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his expression soft. "So, you're telling me that these tickets came because you were trying to balance being a mother and making it to work on time?" She nodded, unable to speak, her emotions overflowing. He sighed gently and said, "Ma'am, you remind me of my own mother. She worked very hard to take care of her children, and I know how much sacrifice it takes. Raising children alone is one of the hardest jobs in the world." Her eyes widened, surprised by his empathy. She had expected judgment, maybe even anger, but instead she found understanding. Judge Caprio looked down at the papers, reviewing the amount she owed. The total was significant, enough to cause any struggling parent sleepless nights. He paused for a long moment, then looked back up at her. "If I enforce the full fine," he began, "it would mean taking money away from your children's meals, their school supplies, maybe even your rent. That would not be justice. Justice has to consider not just the law, but the circumstances of life." She covered her face with her hands, sobbing openly now. The pressure, the exhaustion, the the fear of losing more than she could bear. All of it poured out in those tears. The judge leaned closer and said softly, "Here's what we're going to do. I am going to reduce your fine significantly. In fact, I will dismiss most of these tickets. You will not have to worry about this burden anymore." The woman gasped, looking up at him through her tears. "Your Honor, thank you. You don't know what this means for me and my children." But Judge Caprio wasn't done. He smiled gently and added, "I want you to focus on your children. Work hard, take care of them, and one day, when life gets a little easier, do a good deed for someone else who may be struggling, just like you are today. That will be your repayment." The courtroom erupted in quiet applause. Even the clerks and officers, who had seen countless cases, looked touched by the decision. It wasn't just about waiving tickets. It was about restoring hope to a mother who had nearly lost it as she walked out, tears still on her face, but with a faint smile. She turned back and said, "God bless you. Judge, you gave me more than forgiveness today. You gave me hope." The story didn't just stay in that courtroom. When the video was later shared online, millions of people across the world watched it. Comments poured in. "This made me cry. We need more judges like him. She's not just a case number. She's a mother." And Judge Caprio treated her like a human being. This proves that kindness is the highest form of justice. For many viewers, this wasn't just a story about a traffic violation. It was a reminder that behind every fine, every case, every mistake, there is a human being with struggles we may never see. This case teaches us all something important. Being a parent, especially a single parent, is a constant challenge. Mistakes happen, but sometimes those mistakes are born out of love. The love of a mother rushing to pick up her children. The love of someone trying to juggle everything alone. Judge Caprio showed us that true justice is not blind. True justice listens, understands, and has compassion. His decision didn't just relieve her financial burden, it restored her dignity, gave her strength, and reminded her that she was not alone in her struggle. At the end of the day, the greatest lesson we learn from this story is simple. Kindness can change lives. For that single mother, Judge Caprio wasn't just a judge. He was a reminder that the world still has people who care. So, what do you think? The video narrator concludes, did Judge Caprio make the right decision in forgiving this struggling mother? Or should the fines have been enforced? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Caprio's Court Stories for more inspiring courtroom moments that show us the true meaning of justice. Because in this courtroom, every case is more than just the law. It's about life, compassion, and humanity.